Okay, cool guys. Yeah, me again. I just wanted to make a cool little video on explaining like what it actually takes to get good at not just electronic music, because that's basically what this channel is focused on, but what about my hair? I just wanted to talk about like how many hours it takes to get really good at something. So about 2 years ago, I found out that FL Studio has this. Let me just open FL Studio and actually show you guys. It has this thing where it shows you how long you've been working on a project, right? So if you go to, I think it's file settings, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, it's project info. At the bottom here, it actually shows you how long you've been working on the project. Right now, it says less than a minute was spent working on it. But yeah, I never actually knew that FL Studio saves how long you've been working on projects like for freaking ever. So let's say I go into the little thing I messed with trying to remake Sandstorm, or yeah, the root Sandstorm, which is horrible, but anyway, that's not the point of this thing. So I go to project info and it shows me I've been working on it for 10 minutes, literally. So once I figured that out, I literally went through every single FL Studio project I have since I started making music in 2014. And I wanted to know how many hours I've spent doing stuff on FL Studio, because I've been saving every single project. Maybe not every single project, but I've tried to save every single idea I come up with. If it's half decent, if it's more than just one single sound file, like a beat or something, then I usually save it out. So I went through the arduous process 2 years ago of going through each and every one of these files and writing down how long I've been working on those files. And I made a spreadsheet that took me about 2 full days at the time. This only goes up to 2019 because that's the last time I worked on this spreadsheet. Since then, I've been using this app called what's it called? Manic Time, to track how long I work in a bunch of different programs. But I just wanted to show you guys, like, I did this little I don't know, you call it like a dot plot, or what is this thing called? I don't even remember, to be honest. Scatter chart of over the years how I started working. Like literally the first day I ever made something in FL Studio was on the 23rd of September 2014, and it's 2021 right now, so that's about almost 7 years. Yeah, and over the years, the amount of time I spent making music became more and more. Of course, when I started, I was really excited about it, and I spent a few times on a few projects really like a really long time. So it's time spent versus the date. And yeah, 2015, I didn't make a lot of cool stuff. I made a few interesting things. But when it came to 2016, it started picking up. The amount of projects I was doing was also picking up quite a bit. And 2017 is an interesting year because I basically used electronic music as a form of procrastination. And it's interesting because recently I've been really thinking about how if you have to do something else that's more important, you tend to do the things around that more. I'm explaining this like a total idiot, but if you have something really important to do, like schoolwork, then everything that you shouldn't be doing, like playing games or any other creative pursuits that aren't really important, so to speak, tend to get a lot of more attention from you because you shouldn't be spending time on them. So, but it actually shows in the way that my music improved during those years, because like if you go to the first song I ever made, like, let me actually just open this right now. So the first song I ever released was called, very stupidly, Cloud Army March, right? Which is the stupidest track you've heard ever. The production is not the best. Now, granted, now, this is obviously on my first channel and everything, but hold on, let me just turn on monitoring for myself. This was the actual first track I released. The actual first track I ever made is also here, and I'll show it to you guys at some point in the future because it's besides the point. You can even see my logo was all screwed up and pixely, you know? It's undergone a lot of evolution. But yeah, that was like the first song I ever made, and you can tell it's not the best. I think those are like the stock beats you get in FL Studio. And I downloaded some random sample pack. Sorry, I just want to turn it down a bit. With some like risers and stuff that didn't mean anything. I didn't know anything about sidechaining. It was just the most random thing you'd ever see. But yeah, besides that, let's go back to the scatter plot. And yeah, that was about, I released that back in November 2014 because I thought I was just so amazing, you know. And throughout 2015, you can see the amount of things I did. I did like a few tracks throughout the year, and some of them, the average time I spent on them was, I don't know, we can actually check here because I did do like an average time for each year. Or did I? I don't know. Well, the total amount of time I spent that year was 107 hours. So it wasn't amazing. It's like if you're starting a new game on Steam and you play it like every second weekend, then yeah, you get about that amount of hours in a year. So I wasn't like crazy invested in it, but 107 hours later, as I said, it's not a lot of new hours. So I'm trying to think like what track did I make in 2015? I'm actually gonna go to a little, so there was a bunch of tracks I made that year, but I think, oh yeah, this one was, yeah, so by the end of the year I made Skull of Doom, which was the second cringiest thing I've ever done, which I think by this time I actually knew some sidechaining, but I tried getting into dubstep because dubstep was all the rage back then. I think, yeah, there's some sidechaining or something going on here. Unable to furnish any evidence. Yeah, I found this weird documentary about a skull, like a kind of like the crystal skull from Indiana Jones. And I made a drop for it. The Skull of Doom. No one cares what a sub is, apparently. But yeah, all this stuff is just still on YouTube because I posted. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be the next freaking Skrillex, Deadmau5. Yeah, got some lasers in there, a lot of like knife party type stuff. But yeah, that was the end of 2015. So by spending another 100 hours throughout a year, that's what I learned. That's how we got from Cloud Army March to Skull of Doom, which I later redid and made a little bit cooler, but it's still horrible. Let's go back to, let's see, 2016 was, so things were picking up and the amount of projects I was doing was becoming a little bit more. So let's see if I can find something specific from 2016. I remember, oh, there was one called Freedom because I absolutely hated school. And this was around the time that I discovered Serum and I wanted to make plucks like Serum, like Deadmau5 does. Because I heard the track Imaginary Friends, which I'm obviously not going to play right now because I'm going to get copyrighted into next week. But I wanted to do the plucks. The plucks were the amazing thing. And this is around the time that I discovered Serum. And started using that. And started making all kinds of resonant-y little plucks and stuff. But this was around March in 2016. This was around the time when my exams ended. So this is why it's called Freedom. Because finally I was free, you know. And you can already tell, like, a little, the sound design part of what I'm doing is becoming a little bit better. It's becoming a little bit more like, I don't know, cinematic, I guess. But very Deadmau5, you know. Like, I was listening to so much Deadmau5 at this point. But I want to actually find something, like, at the end of 2016. This is the middle 2016. I made this track called Complete Coherence. I don't know why it's called Complete Coherence. I don't really remember the story behind this. But this was around a time where I was really active on YouTube trying to boost my channel. Also Plucky Pluckness. So around this time I already made like, I don't know, I was spending a lot of time on music. And you could tell like I was getting like a little bit of a feel for music theory and stuff. Like I think I knew what the minor scale was by then. That's about it, I guess. But yeah, it was actually getting quite good. Like I kind of like this track. It's actually not a bad track. The sound design is just not life-changing, but I mean, if I could take these same chords and stuff and just use them in another cinematic track I'm doing, I mean, it could be cool. This is still a cool little track. I tended to be a little bit repetitive in the way that I did stuff, but yeah, I could actually take a look, go to the channel I have right now, which is Skulk Sounds. This is what you're watching this on right now. And we can go to the oldest uploads, because at some point I was uploading a lot of stuff on, I should actually have started with that. I still have an old SoundCloud page where I uploaded stuff from back in 2015. I wonder if it's still up actually. So let's see. Skulk. I guess if you just search for it, you'd find it. Yeah, it shows up when you search it. So yeah, stuff from actually not that long ago. So yeah, I guess 3 years ago I made this one track called I Don't Know, because I didn't know what to call it. But yeah, this is actually a good place to go, because I was uploading a lot of music on SoundCloud because that was totally the thing to do. So 4 years ago, that was 2017. So yeah, it's complete coherence. So we can actually go through the little timeline here actually. A track called Food. I have no idea why I would call a track Food, but that's just... Oh crap, I need to turn this way down because it's so loud. But yeah, I think this is around the time where I got a feel for making chords, but just like intuitively. I didn't know what I was doing necessarily. Yeah, and obviously mixing was not a thing that I was doing much. I think that my naming thing behind this was like, I was really inspired by Deadmau5, like way too much. And he had a weird naming thing. He doesn't name stuff like normal people do. So I just name stuff whatever. Yeah, this one's called Drive because it sounds all 80s-ish. I wish I could see the upload date on SoundCloud. Oh, 3rd of October 2016. So yeah, we're approaching the end of 2016. My buddy Dominic commented on this. But yeah. So I was figuring out how to make like acid bass on Serum, because Serum is still like a staple for me. That's something I use like almost literally every time I open either FL or Ableton these days. So yeah, this was actually quite cool. You could tell I was kind of like getting a grasp on how sounds were being made and stuff. Still really on the house sort of vibe. Yeah, and I was getting creative with like melodies and stuff, you know. Still very repetitive, but and structure. You can actually tell by this waveform here that I knew what a bridge was. I knew that, oh, you needed a bridge, and that was pretty much the same as the intro. Very cool. I'm actually, yeah, like if I were to talk to myself back 4 years, I'd be like, good job, kid. This is pretty cool. You're going a little heavy on the sidechain there, but pretty neat. So yeah, we're reaching the end of 2016 here. Oh yeah, okay, so I made the Harmattan, which was like a... we were reading a book in class or something, which was... I have no idea. There was some African book, and there was Harmattan, but the guy said Harmattan, and I was like, I'm gonna make a drop for that. But also, yeah, I was doing like this acid-based thing the whole time. And gun sounds, because why not? Oh, and this was dubstep, by the way. Like, look at that. I think this was one of the first dubstep tracks I ever did, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. But 2017 was totally the year of dubstep, so... Oh yeah, we're doing a build-up now. Drums. We don't know what a sub is by now. Doing all kinds of like bit crushy stuff. Making random sounds and putting them next to each other and hoping for the best, I guess. But yeah, so by this time I was like, okay, we're doing dubstep now. We're making cool dubstepy sounds. I was going more into the Skrillex type of direction of things. And when is this? So it looks like October and November was a really active time for me in 2016. I actually want to get to the end of 2016 so we can look at yeah, actually by the time 2017 started, I was actually kind of doing kind of cool stuff actually. So yeah, this one is called Ignition. So I remember around this time, I was trying to make as much music as I possibly could, just to get better. And I can attest to the fact that that actually worked, because you can see the amount of time I spent on music actually picked up here. And Yeah, already, this is already way better than the cloud thing that I made at the start. And you can tell that I knew what a filter was. But also, yeah, just a lot of serum, you know. But yeah, this was around the time where I was really starting to hate school and music was like an outlet for me. And yeah, this was around the time that I made my first album, quote unquote, that I put on Spotify because I'm so cool. But 2017 was actually a really big year because around this time I really got good at electronic music. And I made this track called Dear School, as in screw you school. And this was dubstep, if I'm not mistaken. But this was actually around the time when I thought, wow, I'm actually getting really good at making like a variety of sounds and doing something with them. And drops were actually sounding like dubstep. A little bit wonky, but like... And some random, what was that, like Serious Sam or something? Sample. And some of the sounds I used in this I saved out and I still use them to this day because they were actually not that bad. And yeah, and this random shamal track, I don't know, it sounded Middle Eastern and I thought of the word shamal. I don't remember what it means. But yeah, around this time I was really experimenting with different stuff and I was raking in a lot of hours. Like, if this was around April 2017, you can already tell, yeah, like I was putting in a lot of time, making a lot of different projects. And you could tell, like, this guy is doing different stuff now. Like, this is becoming something. I don't know, I probably raked in around 1,000 hours already by then. So it was becoming something. It was kind of like, I even like this track nowadays, you know? I don't know, not a lot of people can say that they still like their old music. I know it's not great, but it's like, it's still something, you know. That's what I was doing it. Now, Afrikaner Discipline is a very interesting track because this is the first track that I actually gained something out of. Like, up until this time, it's been about 3 years of making music just for shits, you know. And this Afrikaner Discipline song, so there's this comedian in South Africa, Afrikaans comedian, and he had this bit that he said about like how Afrikaans parents are really like heavy on discipline, and they would like if you would do the most random stuff, they would just like boop, hit you in the face or whatever, and a tooth would fly or something like that. I can't even remember what it was about, but what was hilarious about this track is I made it and I posted it on YouTube. And this was around the time when I was still using Twitter. I didn't have any followers, but I just messed around a lot. But I actually sent this comedian guy this song and he saw it. And it was crazy because... And this was actually kind of good. Actually started sounding like dubstep. Okay, what was I saying? Oh, so the guy saw the track and he DM'd me on Twitter. He was like, dude, this is epic. I want to actually open my show with this track. And if I'm ever in the area, I'll get you some tickets for the show. I was like, holy... I was literally like overjoyed. So this track is a really special track to me. Because I did actually go get those tickets at some point, and I did go see him live. I didn't get to meet him though, but it was a really awesome experience. It was actually something that I gained something out of, you know, which is really cool. So this was around the middle of 2017. So 2017 was a big year. I feel like I made big leaps in this year, but it goes to show you that just putting in more hours and spending longer times on projects. So this is basically the average time, or the amount of time I spent on projects. So the amount of time I spent on projects became way more than usual. I don't know if I've spent 15 hours on any tracks I made in the last 2 years or so, but yeah, 2017 was a big year and my music improved quite a bit, and I doubt that it's gotten better since. I may have gotten better at like cinematic stuff and using content libraries, but not really that much. So yeah, and then I remixed that Dear School track and made one called Fuck School. And then I realized, oh, so you can remix your own tracks and make something that's twice as cool. So that was really interesting.
You telling me they don't look at me like the motherfucking glitch?
And this is a lot more Skrillex if you think about it. I was figuring out how to do like the growl sounds that Skrillex always does in his tracks. And yeah, I was just getting better at everything overall. Sound design was getting better, and like layering stuff and becoming creative with sounds was a new thing for me. And reusing sounds. I think this is probably the first track where I actually reused stuff that I made in older tracks. Or an older track. And that kind of helped a lot, I'd say. Like it showed you that, oh, you can be twice as productive by reusing things, because around this time, what I was doing a lot of times was I was creating all of the sounds I needed for that track in the track as I was making it, which is not very productive. You need to reuse stuff and use presets and change them up a bit. It's not very productive if you want to make everything from absolute scratch, which is probably why I put so many hours into these tracks. But yeah, and then I think about at the end of 2017, I made a track called Fallout, which by around this time I ran out of tracks, or I ran out of space for SoundCloud, and then I didn't want to actually leave all, like, get rid of songs just to post new stuff on SoundCloud. So what I did was I was just like, okay, so then I'm gonna make a separate YouTube channel, which is the channel you're watching right now, for my music, because you don't have an upload limit on YouTube. So I guess I'm just gonna start from here. So yeah, that brings us closer to the present, obviously, as we're going through this stuff. Yeah, I tried making a tutorial, which actually did kind of alright. But the track I'm thinking of, so this is, yeah, I started uploading a lot of stuff here, and by the end of 2017, which was like a good ending track for me, was a track called Fallout, because it really summed up for me, like, okay, so you've gotten good at music, theory, sampling, and making sounds. So yeah, and by then I'd already put in over 1,000 hours, and the drop for this track is still pretty, like, decent, I think, even by today's standards for dubstep, you know. So let me actually play this a little bit louder. I think by this time, around this time, I started using subs as well, because Serum had that little sub button. So I learned, oh, so if you add sub to something, it sounds a little bit more like, you know, like something, like a bass. So still to this date, it's probably one of the best quote-unquote dubstep tracks I've ever made. So yeah, I don't know how many hours I put in by then. It was around, so it was the end of 2017. Jeez, writing all this stuff in was an absolute nightmare. But yeah, I put in a total of 500 hours in 2017, which is about all of the other years combined. So yeah, I did learn a lot by putting that amount of time. But one thing I want to stress, which is interesting, is my average time I spent on an actual project was about 2 minutes, it seems. Is that 2 minutes or 2 hours? I think it's 2 hours. 2 hours and 30 minutes per project. So it wasn't like huge. It was something. I just spent some time, you know. I'm not sure how many hours I spent per day. Yeah, this is hours. Yeah, so my average time spent making music per project was 2.5 hours. And I don't know how many projects I made. We can actually check, like 367 time minus 363. That's about 200 projects or something. About, I guess. This might not be 100% accurate, but whatever. 200 projects, spending 2 hours on each. That makes about sense. Yeah. So spent a lot of time that year making music, and that's where I really thought, like, wow, I could actually make something of this, because I'm getting really, like, half decent at it. And I know a lot of you might not like the stuff I made, but yeah. And then 2018 came. I finished high school, and in the strange way that things happen, my incentive to make electronic music kind of fell, because it was like, well, I don't need anything to distract me from my work anymore. And also I started doing really bad at YouTube in general. So this is one of the ones I made in 2018, which was cool, because I started experimenting with sampling stuff out, making stuff and sampling it out. It's kind of dubstep, I guess.
Holy fuck.
So it's not really music, I guess, but it's something. But yeah, this 2018 wasn't super eventful in terms of music. I can actually check in my project files. I don't think there was a lot of stuff that actually happened in 2018. So yeah, there was like minimal amounts of projects. Some months I didn't do too much. I did barely anything, to be honest. But yeah, so it wasn't a very eventful year, and I tried making some like basic like tutorials and stuff, which isn't too great. And I think, yeah, I made my first like big tutorial, which is the Noisia tutorial. Yeah, end of 2018 I made the Noisia drum and bass sound, which wasn't too great. It was like decent, but it's one of the biggest videos on my channel right now. And if you just I don't know if it just adds a lot decent. But I was still convinced that FMing was the best way to do anything, so it was not I wasn't the best at what I was doing at that point. But yeah, where was I? Here. Okay, so yeah, and yeah, this was this track called Mother Trucker, which I think was also the end of 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Which wasn't great. This was not one of my best tracks, but I was listening to a lot of like Knife Party and trying to step away from dubstep in general and trying to just like make more of the Knife Party stuff, sort of stuff like.
Mother trucker, dude.
But still on a little bit of a random side. I mean, like not a lot of the stuff was like really good stuff. But I remember in the December of 2018, I really put in a lot of hours with electronic music, because I started doing this thing where I do music every day. This is all these music every day 26, every day 27. I would just come up with some idea in a given day and try and finish it, because I was inspired by this one 3D artist called Beeple that made like 3D art every day. He still does it. He's been doing it for over 10 years, which is amazing. He's just amazing at what he does right now because of that. So yeah, and then I eventually made Pure Fire, which was like classic dubstep for the time. Just a lot of like FME stuff. The drop is kind of too brutal, if you ask me. Very Skrillex. Still doesn't make a lot of sense, but I was just going nuts, you know. Wasn't doing like anything interesting. Did I just screw up my tabs? I did, didn't I? No, I didn't. So yeah, and then I started experimenting more with, I think by the end of 2019, no, by the end of, when was this? I made this track called Become, where I was starting to, yeah, so through 2019, also it wasn't too eventful, if I'm not mistaken. It was a decent year. I was making quite a lot of stuff. But yeah, this was around the time where I figured out and I made this spreadsheet by the end of 2019. And by that time, my total hours for FL Studio, according to the projects that I saved, was 1,500 hours about. So that was a lot of time. But it's not as much as you'd think. Like, I mean, a lot of people have played like stuff like League of Legends and stuff like that for way more than that. Now imagine if you spent all that time making electronic music or spending it on just about anything else. You'd get really good at it. But yeah, 2019, I started experimenting with electronic or like cinematic music. I was like, can I do it? Because I don't really have any, like, I didn't have any Contact libraries back then, so I didn't really do anything with Contact. But I did have piano, and I did have synth, and I mean, there's a lot of soundtracks, like especially by guys like Hans Zimmer, that are just synth and piano and stuff like that. So I tried doing stuff like that, and it's around this time my knowledge of music theory became a little bit better. I knew what a minor scale and a major scale was, and how to work within that, and how to make chords. This is still one of the most epic tracks I've made, which isn't really that big. But I bought Action Strikes at some point, so that was actually a Contact library. My first Contact library ever was Action Strikes. And you'll hear it in a sec, like there's gonna be drums. Yeah, so that was cinematic. I don't know why I'm telling you guys about all this stuff. I don't know. It just feels interesting to me. I would be interested in someone showing me their stuff, so I don't know. Yeah, fast forward more time. 2019 came and went. Then comes 2020. And obviously, since the big cove, I'm not gonna explain what exactly that is. Otherwise, I'm gonna get a little blockety block. So the cove came. And yeah, I made this one track called Isolation, which is very cinematic. Kind of inspired by, you know, the loneliness of the whole situation. One of the best pieces of music I ever made, I think, in terms of melody and music theory. Yeah, so I don't know, it really sums it up. If you ever feel like you get nostalgic when you listen to music from the past or whatever, like a pop song from the 2000s or whatever, and you feel nostalgic, imagine having made a piece of music yourself. It puts you right back where you were when you made the track. Which was in a good place, to be honest. So yeah, I tended to use music a lot as an escape, you know, which I think was a good thing. Yeah, which brings us a lot closer to the present day. And oh yeah, and then I made one of the best tracks I ever made in terms of cinema, which is my Smells Like Teen Spirit cover. Because throughout the year I had been learning a lot about using contact libraries, sample libraries for like cinematic strings and stuff like that, and I wanted to put it all to use. And I was really inspired by some of these like guys like Two Way and Two Steps from Hell and Mark Petrie or Petrie, I don't know how you say his last name, who do these. They do like these epic covers of songs, and I wanted to do my own. And I figured out what the chords are for Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I just kind of like remade it. Yeah, so sorry to cut it short there, but I don't want to make this video too long because it's already ridiculously long. Yeah, and then I collaborated with Retrovex like 5 months ago. And yeah, why is Steam being stupid? And we made Pandemonium, which is like pretty much the first drum and bass track I ever made, like finished, because I've been experimenting with the big Noisia Nero sound, which is the video I posted right before this, which is... I experimented making that sound, but I never actually made too many tracks with it. Because I was too interested in sound than the actual track, so... This was a really cool track we made, though. The drop is just the bomb. Especially the second drop, though. Yeah, and I learned a lot from Retrovex. I still am learning a lot from him. We still keep in contact and send each other's things on Discord and stuff. Like his mixing skills are like next level. I don't know how to mix like that. I absolutely have no clue. And the way he goes into detail with things and the level of perfection he wants to have on every sound is like really inspiring. I tend to just half-ass things. But yeah, I made most of the sounds for this track. He did the drums and like melodies and stuff like that. But the second drop was like absolute bomb, man, if it would play, which I don't think it's gonna play right now. But yeah, you guys could check it out yourself. Hold on, no. This was pretty bomb. Pretty sick stuff, man. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much the present day. The last track I made was called Flow State. And I made a visualizer in Blender because I learned Blender where I study right now. In fact, I'm kind of behind on a few projects I need to do in Blender. But yeah. So yeah, that was kind of like a short version of my whole musical journey up until 2019 and the present day. yeah, it takes a lot of time to learn this stuff, but if you just put in the hours, I mean, if you learn this stuff for 1 hour a day or less, you could get a long way in a year's time. And yeah, and these days I'm really experimenting with stuff like Ableton, because I figured out that my workflow works way better when I come up with ideas as time goes along, because as you saw, like I tend to work 2 hours on something and then just drop it and start something new. But what I can do is I combine those ideas later, and FL doesn't allow you to do that unless you render stuff out, and I wasn't really game on doing that, so I thought, yeah, slowly switch over to Ableton or Cubase, and I'm learning Cubase as well, where I'm studying right now. So yeah, I branched out to a lot of other DAWs in the last 2 years. Namely, like the first other DAW I ever learned was what is it called? Reaper, Kakos Reaper. And I realized that, oh, so DAWs are like really similar. And then we learned Pro Tools. So I got like basic fluency with Pro Tools, and then I was like, well, then I want to learn Ableton because all the big guys are using it. I want to see what all the hype's about. And now I understand it, really. Because you can combine stuff and you can really go into detail in that instrument rack. And yeah, and then recently we started learning Cubase because it's great for sound design and film sound design and making music and film scoring, like I'm doing a lot of. So yeah, that's everything from where it started to now. I brushed over it quite quickly, but this is a really long video. And yeah, I hope you guys learned kind of like something. For those of you who are actually going to watch this, my channel is still very small at the time of posting this. We're at a good 645 subscribers. Hot damn. So yeah, yeah, I guess this has been my journey with music so far. I don't know why I wanted to share that. I just wanted to, I guess I just wanted to, I don't know, give a little bit of an explanation, because I never really explained all the stuff I did with music. It's always just been kind of like a hobby, and now it's kind of like something I take kind of a little bit more seriously every now and then. I haven't been spending too much time on music lately, but yeah, it was a good thing to like reflect on everything and make this video. And yeah, I guess thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comments and stuff are really welcome. And yeah, see you next time. Keep making cool stuff, guys.